We mentioned David Haye just then, and it's less than a month until his WBA heavyweight title fight against Audley Harrison. There's been some concern that with the TV shows, magazines and iPhone apps taking up his time, maybe Haye's become complacent.
I'm training harder for Audley than I've done for any other fight. And people might think that's mad. People see me in training thinking, why are you training so hard? Why are you grafting so much? You're only fighting Audley. And that's exactly why. Because, you know, that you have to have the mindset of a challenger. You have to imagine the opponent you're fighting's better than ever. I'm not looking at fighting Audley Harrison on I'm training to fight Superman, you know, because on anyone's given day they can be, you know, 20-30% times stronger, faster, better punch resilience, you know, so I'm expecting to fight the best possible Audley Harrison. And you know, Audley Harrison on his day, I've seen it in spurts, in 15-10 second spurts, and he's shown some real good qualities. Great jab, you know, he's knocked people out. That one shot that he knocked out Sprott with, I'm anticipating him throwing 50 of those in the first round. So mentally, that's what I'm getting myself up for.
In preparation for your fight with Audley, you've been sparring with Tony Thompson. He shared a ring with Klitschko, he's now shared a ring with you. Yeah. What has he said to you about how you would get on if the fight between you and Klitschko is ever made? He
was pretty shocked. You know, he'd seen me on video, he'd seen the John Riz fight, he saw me fight Valuev, and he thought he knew what I was like. It was only till he actually shared the ring with me that he realised I'm completely different. I punch a lot harder, I'm a lot harder to hit. He said I'm one of the only guys other than himself who thinks if he gets a rematch he'll win the fight, which is fair enough, but he thinks other than that, he said I'm the only person he's ever been in the ring with who's shown who punches harder or is better than the Klitschko's. He's not the type of guy to say stuff if he didn't really mean it.
Now, if he said that sharing a ring with you was different from what he anticipated, yeah, what did he say the experience was like sharing a ring with Vladimir Klitschko in a real live fight?
He said it was very awkward. He's very disciplined. He sticks to his game. He didn't tell me anything I didn't know already. But he just said they're very strong, very fit, and very awkward. He said they can be hurt if you show speed and angles. They don't know how to deal with that because they're not used to fighting that. They're used to picking opponents. They feel comfortable with someone like Shannon Briggs, who they know has got asthma, so they know he can't throw that many punches per round. Otherwise, he has an asthma attack. So they know he's only going to throw a certain amount of punches per round. So he can just beat up on guys like that. So they're used to picking guys they know they're comfortable with, that they can just do what they want with. So someone like me, I've never been in the ring with anybody with my speed and my angles or someone with my pedigree. I know what it's like to unify titles. They don't. They've sort of got a title here and sort of defended it in Germany, making these guys sign these crazy contracts. Back to this fight, the catch line is best of enemies. What caused the enmity that exists between you? And again, is this genuine or is this a promotional ploy to sell tickets? It also fell out in Miami. I used to train in Miami, so did he. I was there for a training camp, I fought Lasse Johansson, I think it was, and he was out there, so I turned up to spar with him. You know, it was unannounced. I didn't phone him up and tell him I was sparring. He was sparring with some guy who'd never had a pro fight before, so obviously he was beating up on this guy. So okay, let me jump in there. So I jumped in there and did my thing really. You know, as I'm very competitive, as me and Audley sparred loads as amateurs. I think this is the first time he sparred with professionals. Yeah, so I went out there and I got the better of him, because that's what I do whenever I spar with anyone. I never let someone beat me up. It's not my game. It's not what I'm here to do. And so I put it on him. He didn't like it, and you know, I think Lennox Lewis was there to watch him spar, but he wasn't aware I was turning up. So I think he picked a guy who he knew he was going to look good against. And obviously I got in the ring and he didn't look good. Maybe he was embarrassed, a bit of pride, or whatever the reason was. He got beat up the same way he's going to get beat up on the 13th.
Well, there's a lot of animosity going on there, isn't there, Steve? And it sounds as if, from what you're saying, that it's genuine. It's not just being done for the hype.
Listen, when we got together in early September to announce this fight, one or two people left there, that, you know, the wise old cynics that are in the boxing game. Some of them are only 25. They act like they're 70-year-old men, and they walked out going, no, that's all show. Let me tell you something. They hated each other at the moment, and I'll tell you for why. It's because they loved each other. Between about 1998 and 2000, Audley Harrison was a superstar. He was in Kuala Lumpur. He won the gold medal. He went to the Olympics, he went to the World Amateur Championships in Houston, and all of the time in his shadow was this little kid from South London called David Haye, who was very much in Audley's shadow, and I mean in Audley's shadow. So he slept on the floor with David, but more than that, probably in 30 countries over about a 2-year period, they shared rooms at tournaments. Now they may have been in the same bedroom with each other 130, 140 nights. They were rock solid close. When they turned professional, Audley was still mentoring and looking after David. And once David turned professional, he started to get, you know, his bit of power, his bit of say. Then they fell out, and it all comes down to this one sparring session. Now, let me ask you a question here, Duke. You've got a really good friend, right? Yep. You're and he's a good fighter as well.
Yep.
And you know, you both say world champions, or you're both British champions. He comes to the gym one day, you're on a bit of a downer, you just lost a bad fight, and he's on a bit of he's flying a little bit, and he tanks you up in the gym. He gives you a beating. Well, how do you react?
Well,
a 20-ounce glove beating.
Yeah, you're going to be absolutely
livid.
Really livid. Yeah, really sort of peed off with it. Really, there's no doubt about it. You can't really run when you're sparring. You can't get away from anything, and if you're humiliated in front of other people, it's even worse.
Lennox Lewis is there, so you really are humiliated.
Yeah, it's even worse then. So there's no reason. I mean, it's no wonder why there's a lot of bad feeling between the pair of them.
So how do you think the fight's going to go, and what's it going to be like then when they get in the ring together?
Well, I mean, listen, it's Audley Harrison's last fight against Michael Sprott. That punch he threw was $1 million fight, $1 million punch. Yeah. It's earned him a lot of money. It's earned him the heavyweight a shot at the heavyweight champion of the world in David Haye. But for me, regardless of the Klitschko's, David Haye's the best heavyweight on the planet right now. He's got everything, and he's got, in my opinion, again, he's got the world at his feet. He's got athleticism. He's a good-looking guy. He can punch. He's got tremendous movement. If David Haye shows up in, the David Haye that we all know shows up in this fight, then Audley will be in trouble. But Audley Harrison has a puncher's chance.
But do you think Haye is, I mean, you know, what you say is about him being articulate and good-looking is all true, but do you think he's lost some sympathy with the way he's approached Audley Harrison in the build-up to this?
Yeah, because what's happened is Audley's come in here as Uncle Audley. Audley used to be the brash one that kept us waiting 2 hours to do interviews. Audley used to be the one that called us up at 5 to 8 and said, I can't make the show tonight without giving us an excuse. Audley used to be the one that kept us waiting after we'd watched him fight and after the BBC had paid him a lot of money, kept us waiting for 3 hours to tell us, I've got no comment, okay? Audley was brash. Audley admits he was a pain in the jacksie. Audley admits he was horrific, he was terrible. But then Audley looks over at David Haye, but he says, I wasn't as arrogant as him. Now, David Haye, some of the things he said were outrageous. The British Boxing Board of Control, for one or two of those comments, they're entitled to hit him with a £10,000 or £15,000 fine. So do I think David Haye has taken his eye off the prize? No, I don't. I think David Haye's a great showman. David Haye will give the impression that he's doing nothing but swanning around town, going to the UFC, doing his app thing, getting another book out, swanning over to Las Vegas or somewhere for a massage.
What is this app thing? Sorry, I haven't got an iPhone, so you better tell me what the app thing is.
I didn't think you'd ask me. I just know it's an app thing. I thought you would know what it was. No, it's an app. There's a million trillion apps, and on this app with David Haye, if you've got this app which costs nothing, I think it's freebie, you can speak to him, and he will. I've known David a long while. I've seen him on Facebook and other social network sites, sometimes on there for 2 or 3 hours answering fans. He will answer, even fans who say, you're a bum, Haye, I hope you get slaughtered. He'll answer them. Thanks very much indeed. Yeah. I appreciate your opinion. He's very media savvy. So this app is a potentially brilliant idea, because if you're on part of the Apple system and you have an Apple, an iPhone, people will be contacting him constantly, free, just whacking over stuff to him. Listen, I've lost myself, Ellie. Give me a break.
You know, I think that sounded fairly convincing anyway. But I bet Lennox Lewis didn't have an app, did he?
He's probably not got
Did Henry Cooper have an app?
Listen, Lennox Lewis loved nothing more, right, than getting down to his swimming trunks and setting a barbecue. Sometimes in Hertfordshire, sometimes in Jamaica. We didn't care where it was. That's what Lennox Lewis did. He also happened to be a brilliant fighter, by the way, who kept us going for 10 years.
Yeah. Well, look, we've talked about Klitschko, we've talked about Haye, but crucially, we haven't talked about them together. So let's hear from Klitschko, because he had a message for David Haye at today's press conference.
David Haye is a coward. Right now he's finding an excuse. I'm retiring next year, Klitschko brothers need to hurry up. What is that? I mean, either you're a fighter and a champion and you do it, or you become a clown eventually. And I believe for right now, for David Haye, it doesn't look well, so because he is getting in a direction to become a clown.
Well, so David Haye is a clown. I mean, what do you make of this? I mean, we all know that making fights is never simple and straightforward, but surely this is the fight we all want, isn't it?
It's the fight the whole world's waiting for, really. I mean, let's get it right. There'll be some kind of contractual differences between both camps, promotional differences. There'll be a lot of stuff on paper that we don't know about why the fight won't be made, and it probably is by David Haye's doing that this fight hasn't happened. But when the fight does happen, I've got no hesitation in saying that I think David Haye will beat the younger Klitschko. Is that Vitaly?
Yeah, no, Vlad's the young one. Vitaly's the old one, 39.
He will beat. I think he has a better chance against the younger one than he does the elder one. But I could see him beating the pair of them, because I just think David Haye is in a good place right now, not only physically but in his own mind. I was in Paris when he beat Jean Marmec for the undisputed cruiserweight world championship, and that's a very valid point, because if you've seen the look on David Haye's eyes after he'd been decked by Marmec,
heavily,
and he got up, and I tell you what. It was scary watching him get up, because he was a man on a mission, and he would not be beaten, and he'd come back as the undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world. That experience from that taken into the heavyweight division now, the Klitschko's haven't boxed anybody like David Haye. David Haye's athleticism is fantastic, his punch is even better, and his heart and desire is unquestionable.
So who's dodging who, Steve?
Well, actually, no one's dodging anybody, although the Klitschkos are definitely winning the PR battle, because they're the ones who are saying, David, 50-50, split down the middle. Great. Well, the problem with that is that their TV money is well inferior, geezer. It's well inferior, if you don't mind me saying so, to David Haye's pay-per-view TV money here. So what David Haye has said, fantastic, we'll split the overseas TV, we'll split the gate money, we'll split any other money, BBC 5 Live, that type of stuff, but you keep your TV and I'll keep my TV. And the Klitschkos have not agreed to that, and that's with no options. Options being a sticking point, which is why Derek Chisora's got to fight forever in Germany should he beat Vladimir on December 11th. So the PR battle is being won by the Klitschkos, but I can see where David's coming from, because last year when he was meant to meet the two of them, I think he was on say 2 million and 3 million. If he fights them, and when he fights them now for holding out and playing hardball and having a lot of purists give him a lot of stick, he might make 25 million. So who's the winner? David Haye, whether he wins or loses the fight in many ways. So PR decision them. David Haye, I think, business wise.